Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf, BECHOROS, Daf Chaf Aleph. We are holding at the Tanu Rabbanan, which is Chaf Amud Beis, 7 lines from the bottom. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a Brisa. Gedia, we have a female goat giving birth, Mazel Tov, to triplets. Sheyolda Shalosh Banos. Okay, 3 at a time. And subsequently, those offspring, they themselves give birth to triplets at a time, and all within the same year. So you have a huge entourage within a very short time. No, all her daughters, Yoldu Shalosh, each one gave birth to 3 at a time, for a total of 12 newborn animals, 3 mothers, right? Well, technically the daughters of this grandmother, and 9 grandchildren. So the total of 12 born within the same year. Kulan, all of them, nichnosois, will be entered with their list answer. They go into the pen for the grand master behema drawing, which takes place on this whole group, because they're all products of the same season, in which case they join together for the grand lottery, the master behema, where he counts 1 to 10 and slaps the 10th one with the red paint and calls it out as master behema. Amar Shimon, I concur. I myself witnessed this type of phenomenon. Ani Ra'isi. There's a Gersa Gdiya, She'istra b'tech shnasa, that in fact, this exactly happened. We had a whole group, a whole crop, freshly born within the year, and they all joined together. They went into the pen for the drawing of Master Behema. I know it sounds like he's simply repeating the Tanakama's statement. The Gemara will discuss the slight differences between the two shittas. In any case, first, what about the numbers? Why do we need so many for a grand total of 12? Why do we need triplets, which is a grand miracle? Why does each one have to have triplets? It would be sufficient that if just one gave birth to triplets, okay, one of these daughters gave birth to 3 grandchildren, and the other 2 mothers, 2 apiece. So you have 7 grandchildren, 3 mothers, all produced by this grandmother within the year, and that gets you to Master Behema. The answer is you're right. We just, kept to matching numbers. Since at least one of them needs to be triplets, one of these daughters has to have triplets to get you to the grand total. Since there's one of the daughters, where it's not enough without 3, meaning she needs to have that triplets. Likewise, it attributes the number 3, the triplets, to each one of these mothers, but technically, twins are enough. Ask the Gemara, why at all get involved in the mothers giving birth to a granddaughter triplets? Why get involved in triplet granddaughters? Klal at all. Lildu kulu tarti. Let's stick with the daughters giving birth to twins. Okay, so the grandmother, triplets. Each one of those, just twins. At this point we have 9 fresh animals, but hold it. Now the grandmother comes back and does it again within the same year. Gives birth with them to get you to the grand total of 10. We turn to the next Amud. Perhaps this Brisa holds that it's not feasible to have 2 birthing experiences in the same year. Perhaps this Tana holds mitanefes, an animal who discharges. Tanefes is a term describing like a miscarriage. Once it does it, it can't come back and have another birthing experience within the same year, which is really up for discussion, as we discussed yesterday. Is that so? That once that happens, you can't give birth again, and therefore it wouldn't be possible for the grandmother to have 2 experiences within the same year? Says the Gemara, imtim tzaleimar. You know what? Even if you would hold that mitanefes, that merely doing a tinuf experience, a discharge of some miscarriage, choizeres, v'yoledes, that's not significant enough to preempt a recurring birth within the same year. But in this case, where it's yoledes, where she's actually giving birth to a proper offspring, certainly there cannot be another birth of the same mother within the same year. It's one per season. Yoledes vaday einay chazeres. Yoledes can't come back and redo it within the year, which compelled us to move down the road and attribute the numbers to the grandchildren. So that's Tanakama. Rabbi Shimon, yeah, ani reisa gedia. It's true. In fact, it happened. I stood by. I saw this type of circumstance. Ma'ika ben Tanakama, Rabbi Shimon. Any difference between the two opinions? He seems to simply be echoing the Tanakama, where it sounds like he's trying to add something. Yeah, there is a difference. Ika beinayu diziri. The difference will lie with the halacha presented by Zeiri. This was discussed yesterday, but in brief, basically, Rashi explains. What happened was like this. That the grandmother birthed triplets, okay? Now, these daughters had tinuf. They had some sort of miscarriage. At the last day of their 6th month, 6 months from their own birth, okay, when they were exactly 6 months old, the last day of that 6th month, before they entered number 7. Now, how soon after can they actually have a live birth? So according to Zeiri, once the animal experiences tinuf, has some sort of miscarriage, it's locked out. It won't mate for the next 30 days. So the next 30 days have to be discounted, which gives us 5 months, exactly 5 months, until year's end, which is exactly the gestation period of a goat, as we learned back in the beginning of BECHOROS. Hence, the subsequent birth must have taken place on exactly the last day of the year, which is perfectly fine. Chaptaraim, because if it's within the year, even the last moment, it can all count together as one season's crop, which will join together for Maser Behema. That's Tanakama's opinion. Reb Shimon disagrees with Zeiri's formula. You don't need 30 days. There's no 30-day lockout period. So technically she can conceive pretty soon after the tinuf took place, in which case you have a lot of room to play with, and a lot of time on hand. It doesn't have to happen the last day, the very last day of the year. You still have a whole month to play with. So it could have happened the last day, it could happen a couple of weeks before. That's all Reb Shimon meant when he said, I know for a fact that this happened and it was a meiser. B'toich shnasa, if you look at his lashon, b'toich shnasa, within her year, not necessarily on the very last day, the last moment, the nick of time. It happened earlier because there's plenty of room to wiggle there, because you have the extra 30 days to work with. That's one approach. It's just a question of timing, not a conceptual question here. Everyone agrees that you can have this type of phenomenon, this grandmother with the mothers, with the triplets, and get you a whole herd for the Maser Behema. But he says you have a little more time to work with. And the next two pshatim will likewise work with this approach that according to Reb Shimon, there's a bit more room to work with. It doesn't have to be on the very last day of the year. Okay, second shot is, another approach can be, the kuliyam islu deziri. Even Reb Shimon upholds Zeiri's formula that there's a 30-day lockout period. You still have some room to play with. Why? Because the 5-month gestation period isn't a full 5 months necessarily. You can have incomplete months as well. 4+. So again, you have a couple of weeks to play with until year's end. Everybody adopts Zeiri's 30-day lockout period. The question is, can she give birth to incomplete months? Tanakama says no. She requires a full 5 months, which gets her to the very last day of the year. And Reb Shimon says you could have a couple of weeks leeway, because it could have been 4+. Reb Shimon yoledes mukutay. She could be yoledes mukutay. Everybody has another approach. Everybody agrees that incomplete months don't work. You need 5 months, 30 days each. Okay, so according to Reb Shimon, how do you have extra time? Because we have a general rule called miktsas hayom kekulay. When you start experiencing a day, let's say avelus, more in a bit, you've experienced that day as a full unit, even though you didn't really observe it till the end of the day. And this applies to many halachas. So, the question is, do we apply it over here? When we speak of a day, could it be even an incomplete day? In which case, again, you can... When we speak of 30 days for the lockout period, the last of that 30 days, even a bit of it already counts, and now you can start the gestation on that day. Likewise, the end of gestation, okay, it doesn't have to be a full 5 months with 30 days apiece, the last day of that last 30-day month. Even partial can count. So basically, you can clip and cut away some time from, the other, all the... from different directions, in which case you get yourself a little extra time to spare with. The question is whether partial day counts as a complete day. Tanakama, no. We do not apply miktzah kikuli in this case, in which case you need full 30 days for lockout, full 5 months for gestation, which lands you on that very last day of the year. Just makes it. We do apply the partial as the full, in which case you can clip around and gain yourself some extra time. Here comes yet another pshat in the machlekas. The kuli amu amrinan. Everybody would agree that the last day of the gestation she can give birth and she can start mating on the middle of the 30th day of our lockout period. It doesn't have to be complete, right? So technically, even Tanakama would agree that the birth doesn't have to land on the very last day of the year. So what's the machlekes about? Machlekes is whether a mechusar zman, short-timed, premature animal can be counted as a carbon. Basically, there's a halacha pasuk we read recently on Yom Tov. You have a newborn animal. What does the pasuk say? First 7 days by his mother, and from the 8th day on, you can offer him as a carbon. You can't be magdish. You can't even be magdish him according to Rashi if it's still early in the game, still younger than 8 days old, right? So that applies in general by a regular carbon, but there are some exceptions. Bechor, for instance, he's born holy. His kedusha is activated as soon as he's born. 1 day old, right? What about Maser Behema? That's the question. You have this newborn, born at the end of the year, or the very end of the year, whether at the very last day or a couple of days before, but he's still not full 7 days old. He's still mechusar zman, lacking development, lacking time. He's premature. Can he be entered into the dir for the grand lottery? That's the machlekes. Tanakama says no. And the only way they were able to do it in this case is because it happened to be a leap year. Shana Muberes. In which case they added an extra month to the year, which gave them a little extra room to wiggle, which allowed the animal to develop and leave the 7-day waiting period and enable it to become Maser Behema. Whereas Rav Shimon says, no, you don't need Shana Muberes to accommodate them, because even if it's merely a day, 2-3 days old, he can enter the pen for the grand drawing of Maser Behema. That's the machlekes. The question is whether we're premature. Nichnas there is aser, can he be entered to the dir for the Maser Behema? That's the machlekes. Tanakam says no. Reb Shimon says yes. We turn to Talmud Bavli. In fact, we have a brayz which supports this view. We will show that according to Reb Shimon, it's legal to do Maser Behema even on a premature animal. Atanya Reb Shimon, I remember Shimon quotes Rabbi Shimon openly. B'chusar zman nichnas l'dir l'saser. Why? Varei who we treat him like a bechor, but there's no wait period, right? Ma bechor, just like a bechor kadosh lefnei zmaneh. His kedusha gets activated before he's 7 days old. He's born as soon as he's kadosh as soon as he's born. Although v'kar v'lachas zmaneh agreed. For hakrov you have to wait until he's 8 days old, but the kedusha is applied immediately. Af mechusar zman, likewise a regular mechusar zman, a newborn kadosh lefnei zmaneh regarding Maser Behema as well. Kedusha can be applied immediately. V'karev, although the hakrova you have to wait lachar zman. Ask the Gemara. Okay, so on one side of the equation you have all karbanis in the world which need to wait for 7 days. On the other side you have bechor, and Maser Behema is sort of in the middle. Who's to say to lean it this way to bechor, compare it to other karbanis where there is a wait period? Says the Gemara, instead of matching Maser Behemah to Bechor and learning from Bechor that there's no wait period, Neilef Mikadosh, and perhaps we should compare it to other Karbanis where there is a required wait period. Well, says the Gemara, there are 4 commonalities between Maser Behemah and Bechor, which allows us to make that connection and prefer that comparison over other Karbanis. Mistavra, it's logical. Mibchor, we may have to learn Maser Behemah from Bechor, Shekain, because, number 1, Goyel. Both Maser Behemah and Bechor have no Geula. You can't redeem them. Even if they get a mum, you can't redeem them. It's a halacha, in contrast to other Karbanis who do have a redemption option. Mum, in both cases, Bechor and Maser Behemah, even if they're seriously blemished, the Kedushas Haguf gets applied to them. Right? A Bechor, if he's born blemished, he's still Kaddish Kedushas Haguf. Same with the Maser Behemah, as opposed to other Karbanis. If they have a serious mum, you can't activate a proper Kedusha on them. Number 3, Tmuras. The Tmura, the switch, the swap of a Bechor and Maser, is not suitable for offering on the Mizbech as opposed to a Tmura of a regular carbon, which is. Number 4, Achila. In both, Bechor and Maser, once they get a blemish, they're eaten by their owners, the Bechor to the Kohen, the Maser Behemah by the farmer, whereas other Kachim, if they have a mum, you don't sit down and eat them, you have to redeem them, etc. So there are 4 similarities, and that's what we compare the two. Says the Gemara, Adarabba. Well, just the opposite. Take a look at the commonalities between Maser Behemah and other Karbanis. We'll find exactly the same number 4, of commonalities. Adarabba, Kachim of Le'lemelch. Let's learn Maser Behemah from other Karbanis. Why? Shekain Zachar. Firstly, there's no gender factor when it comes to Maser Behemah. You can apply it to a Zachar animal, to a Nekeva. Likewise, most Kachim are not gender specific, as opposed to Bechor, which is specific to a Zachar. Kadosh. Maser Behemah needs to be manually sanctified by the owner. The same with other Karbanis, as opposed to Bechor, which is naturally holy. It's a whole different system. B'matanos. Bechor is one of the gifts to the Kohen, and that stands it out, makes it unique from Maser Behemah and other Karbanis, which isn't considered a matana to a Kohen. And finally, Pasha. Bechor is only a firstborn, as opposed to Maser Behemah and other Karbanis, which are not related to firstborn. They apply to all types, right? So it's not a firstborn specific type of kedusha. So it's different. And so bottom line, just as we have 4 matchups between Maser Behemah and Bechor, we have the same amount of matchups to other Karbanis. So why do you prefer comparing it to Bechor and deleting the wait period compared to other Karbanis, which have a required 7-day wait period? Rather, Rav Shimon is based on Gzeirah Shava. By the Bechor it says Ha'avara v'avarta kol petarechem. Likewise by the Maser Behemah kol asher ya'avar tachas hashavet, passing. So we have a similar lashon. We compare them, and we don't challenge a Gzeirah Shava. In which case we say, just like by Bechor, there's no required 7-day wait period to activate the kedusha. The same with Maser Behemah. Okay, so back in the Mishnah we learned that if a behemah dak, a light animal, goat or sheep, had a tinuf, some sort of miscarriage or discharge, it counts halachically like a birthing experience, which now exempts the subsequent birth from Bechora. It's considered like she birthed the first time, and now she's exempt. She's exempt from further Bechora. How do we define the tinuf? Any sort of waste, any sort of discharge? No, there has to be some sort of parameter. Echdam tinuf. Amar Rava, I'll tell you. Could the Amri, as they say, Ra'usa, Ravasa, the shepherds in the town of Tzalsa, Ravasa the Tzalsa, they describe it as Otsar Chiyusa. It appears that the womb has squished the fetus, and this is the resulting product. So there are telltale signs, and in fact there was a properly formed fetus. That counts as a birthing experience. But just a clump of something, that's not going to really make it. Shmuel Amar, he says a bit differently, Babui de Dama. It appears like bubbles of blood. V'tzarech l'eres l'chacham, you have to show it to a chacham, an expert, a wise man who will determine that in fact it qualifies as a tinuf and exempts it from bechira. Ask the Gemara, chacham. Well, if a Talmud Chacham sitting in the base medrash, how would he know what's going on with the animals? What qualifies what's considered an offspring or a papa? Roya Chacham, you're right, we're talking about a shepherd who's a Chacham who has experience and expertise. Amar of Chizda. Another question that's related. Hari Amru. There's a well-known halach. Yitziras havlad be'isha arba'im yom. So if a woman miscarries, so if the fetus is less than 40 days old, it doesn't have status. The Gemara calls it Maya Ba'alma. It's undefined, just watery material. It doesn't qualify as an offspring regarding her halachas of Leda, because a woman who gives birth has 2 months. If it's too young and undeveloped, it's not considered. So 40 days is the minimum threshold past which it's considered a fetus with status. What about a minimum time threshold regarding an animal? How long after conception? How much development is needed for it to be considered an offspring regarding her active Leda? Oh, I have an answer. Isn't this Ziri's number? Dama Ziri, he told us, Ein Tinov. Tinov only counts if it's at least 30 days old. Ein Tinov Pachas B'Shlosh. You can't have Tinov less than 30 days old. And he assumed the intention was that it has to be 30 days past conception to be considered somewhat formed and developed, to be reckoned with as an offspring. No, L'Kabel Itmar, that wasn't related to the minimum time frame in terms of development. He was talking about something else entirely different, that when the animal does tinov, she's locked out from mating for 30 days. But regarding our question, leave it undefined. Now, back in the Mishnah we learned that if a person purchases a young tender goat from a guy, and there's a mazel tov, a newborn right now, is it first, is it second? We have all kinds of parameters. According to some shittas, it's age-related. According to others, it isn't necessarily dependent on age. That's regarding a Jew who purchases from a guy. Matzinu, we've discussed, one who purchases an animal from a guy, how to determine whether it's firstborn or not. What about Lekech Yisrael? Purchases an animal from Yisrael, and there's a newborn. How should he treat it? Now, he wasn't given any instructions by the seller, and he can't locate him, can't find him. How do we approach it? Amar Rav, we have 3 shittas, 3 opinions. Rav says, Bechor Vadai, it certainly is a firstborn. You know why? Because, an animal, in her first birthing experience, is in a precarious state. It's a sakana. Past which, once she's a veteran, she's considered on safe territory. But the first time is a pretty dangerous experience. Animals tend to die during childbirth if it's the first time. So we can assume this is the first time. Why? Because if in fact this goat had already birthed beforehand, guess what? The seller would have used that as a point of sale. He would have promoted his animal accordingly. He would have told you, well, you should know, this is a veteran. Nothing to worry about in the future. It means the He would have praised his animal during the sale. And the fact they didn't mention anything indicates that she hadn't yet had a birthing experience. So you can assume this is her first and treat it as a bechor. Shmuel Amar, not so sure, bechor safek. There's a safek. Because on the one hand, you have a good point, he would have said something, but that's only if he knew that you're going to keep it for raising offspring. But perhaps the fellow figured you're taking it straight to shchita. Saval shchita kaboyle, needs it for shchita, for consumption, in which case this isn't a factor, so that's why he didn't bother mentioning it. So it's still an uncertainty. You have to treat the offspring accordingly. Rabbi Yechon Amar, third opinion, Chulin, he says it's absolutely confirmed to be a regular, ordinary animal, not a bechor. You know why? Chulin vadoy, without any doubt, my timer. You know why? He's a erlachid. He would have told you, listen, enjoy the animal, but be careful. The firstborn is going to be a bechor. He should have told you. There's halachas, there's isurim involved. My timer, why? Because if in fact there was no birth before this, and this is in fact her first time, since there's isur involved, he has to know about it. He had to disclose it beforehand. He should have forewarned him. Oidui, have a moed, would have told him beforehand, look, I'm selling you a fresh goat down the road, whatever she births is a bechor. In the absence of such notification, we have confirmation that in fact she's a veteran. Tanik said Rabbi Yechon, we have a right to Rabbi Yechon, and that in fact the onus is on the seller, and in absence of notification that confirms that she's a veteran. The Amar Chulin, a right to Rabbi Yechon that is Chulin. We have a Mishnah back in Masechas Chulin regarding Oisei v'Esbenoi, the prohibition of shechting a mother and offspring on the same day. So we have those special times throughout the year, Yom Tovim times, where the animal seller must inform his buyer, look, I'm selling you a goat, but you should know I sold the mother today to somebody else, and presumably he's shechting it today. Be careful, wait until tomorrow. He has to inform him. Im lo yediyah. So in absence of disclosure, hoylech v'shoichet. If the seller didn't inform him, didn't tell him otherwise, so rest assured he can go shechted ve'ein nimna without holding back, meaning we assume that there was no mother-daughter on the same day. Apparently, the onus is on the seller to disclose. Likewise over here. And the fact that he didn't disclose indicates that we're safe and sound. And that's chulin. Le'ma ta'avet yufta, the Rabbi Shmuel perhaps. This is a strong refutation against Rabbi Shmuel, who declared this offspring as a bechor, or at least as a suffix. That halacha tells us otherwise. That if there was any issues, the seller would have told him. Says the Gemara, no, Rabbi Shmuel disagree. They differentiate between the two cases. Hassam, in the case of the Oisav Esbenoi, Rashi learns that we learn it from a pasuk. The pasuk indicates that during these special Yom Tov periods, the seller must notify the buyer. Hassam b'moichet halimus, there is dependent upon the seller to notify. It's his responsibility. But hacha, as opposed to our case, throughout the year, a person buys an animal. It's upon him to investigate, to ask, to find out whether it's a bechor. It's the buyer's onus. Tesis adds, by Yosef Esbenoi, I'm selling it for consumption, presumably so. It's Erev Yom Tov. I'm not going to inform you if I failed to disclose. I'm guilty of lifnei iver l'sitein mirsha. I'm putting a stumbling block in your way. I know you're going to consume it today. I just sold the mother to the neighbor down the block. I have to tell you. But by bechor, innocent animal. Down the road you'll have a firstborn. Okay, figure it out. Why don't you ask me? I would have told you. I'm not tripping you up. I'm not doing something directly to trip you up. So in any case, the farmer doesn't have to keep track of what's going on. It's upon the buyer to figure it out and tend to confirm. In which case, in absence of any absolute concrete information, you have to treat it either as a bechor, radai, or as a bechor suffix. So is the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel. Okay, let's do a brief recap of today's daf. We have this whole extended family, all born in the same year, qualify for Maseh Behema. We have some slight differences in terms of timing between Tanakh and Shimon. We had an interesting conceptual question whether, Bechor has no issue of Mechusas Zman, other Karbanos do. What about Maseh Behema? Machlek is there. We defined the Tinuf concept. We discussed the minimum time threshold regarding Leida by an Isha, regarding Behema was unresolved. And the status of a newborn, of an animal purchased from Yisro without disclosure. 3 shitas. Rav says Bechor Vadai. Otherwise, the fellow would have told you. He would have praised the animal as a veteran. Shmuel says Safek. Rabbi Yechon says just the opposite. He would have ensured that you know that it's going to be the firstborn, in absence of which you can assume it's yours to keep. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha.